Hey the internet, this is Lock. I've been in one of those MMO funks this last week or so. There's plenty of games that I like, but none that I really have that strong connection to keep me coming back. You know, my MMO friends past are scattered to the winds. Long-time guilds are dissolved. Despite having max level characters occupying login screens all around, I feel like something of a stranger. Wherever I go. It's happened a few times over the years. You know, when new games come out, you got a new work schedule, change jobs, different timetables, new responsibilities. You end up somewhat adrift when it comes to, well, any hobby it could be, but MMOs for me. It's a good time to reflect on what you really want out of a game. And for me, you know, that's certainly not the same thing it was 5 years ago, let alone 10 or 15 years. Think about that, 15 years. So what will happen is I'll spend the next few weeks bouncing around the short list of games I'd like to play more seriously in scare quotes, if that's a thing. I'd like to start fresh characters on fresh servers. I'm not much of an alcoholic these days. I've managed to rein that in, but I like to start new characters, and I hope that one sort of clicks and you feel that weird kind of connection with the character. Like you get what's going on. You start thinking of, you see them as having personality traits. You start to personify the character, and that makes you want to stick with it. Or perhaps you just stumble across a group of people that you feel like you could spend some time with, hang out with, become game friends. People change over time is the point that I'm making. We want different things, and sometimes a fresh start is the best thing. A change is as good as a rest, as my nan would say, and other old people as well. So with that in mind, does anyone else think asking a player to choose a class at the start of a game is a weird design choice? I know that's a little bit of a segue, but stay with me. I get it. I get this from a story perspective. The first steps in an MMO, they're often framed as as a coming of age sort of story for a reason. We've spent the time off camera, so we're ready to go out into the world when we log in for that first time, but there's still the character arc. We're still incomplete. We have the rest of our journey. It makes sense from the fantasy literature point of view, and from the old pen and paper RPG point of view as well. Without player classes in those games, they could potentially end up just getting lost in a spiraling mess of spreadsheets and despair. You can't hope to deal with that. But isn't that sort of the point of computers, to be able to make those calculations, to be able to deal with all of those different eventualities quickly without us having to consciously do it ourselves? And it's such a sad existence for MMO characters as well, don't you think? The destiny to just exist until they're completely abandoned or summarily deleted to make room for another one. Why do we expect players to make such a permanent decision with almost zero information to go on? Some MMO veterans will respond to this by saying players should do their research before they even play the game, before they even start to download it, which is fine. It's a good way to approach anything, really, especially if you're putting money down. That's why you end up with so many posts on various subreddits asking, is the Grey Wizard viable? Or what's better, the Witch Doctor or the Ultramarine? To which the only useful answer ever is play what you like. Play what you like. And that's sort of the point, isn't it? Asking players to intuitively know what they like, in my opinion, it's extremely counterproductive. Worst case scenario is a new player, they'll reach a certain point, realise the class isn't what they wanted, but they don't want to start over, so they quit, they move on to another game. We have so many options now that I imagine this kind of player churn is becoming more and more common. And there can be so many reasons for this. Perception of viability of a class obviously is one, especially for people into PvP. If a significant nerf happens while they're leveling, you know, if the forums blow up about it, they could think, oh, I've done the wrong thing. Or maybe a player likes the idea of playing a support role after already engaging with the game. They see the way that the support works and they go, oh, that looks cool. Oh, my class can't spec for support. Maybe you picked a ranged DPS and no progression guilds are recruiting for ranged DPS. Maybe you picked a hunter and everyone thinks hunters are dumb. I don't know. It could be anything, but the point is that you can do your research and still come up against this problem. At this point, I would like to explicitly state I'm not talking about players making permanent decisions in general. I'm talking about players being expected to make the biggest decision possible about how they interact with the world and other players, having been given no opportunity to discover what that means in practice. Now, it's true that if you offer someone a choice that is perceived as permanent, we tend to be more happy with that choice. Good old-fashioned cognitive dissonance. We convince ourselves that we made the correct choice. So perhaps there is a psychological benefit to this practice. Maybe that's why it happens. I believe, however, there is more potential benefit in allowing a player to learn and grow with their character and to be allowed to make significant choices when they are equipped to do so, and to have the option to explore different paths as they see fit. Which is how, when you put humans into a group together, that's sort of what happens naturally. That's what we do instinctively. So what do you think? Do you prefer a static class, like in Terra, for example, or do you prefer the mutability of a game like Arcade? Do you prefer a completely open, no class system? Have you ever abandoned a character because you felt like you picked the wrong class? Did you move on from the game entirely? Let us know in the comments below. Give us a like if you think that this is a discussion worth having. Hit subscribe for all manner of wonderful things from wonderful people, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye!